It was a warm summer afternoon in a small bustling town, filled with busy shops, honking cars, and people too lost in their own lives to notice much around them. Amidst all this noise, a young man named Rohan walked calmly down the street. Rohan was not wealthy, nor did he wear fancy clothes. He worked a simple job at a local bookstore and lived modestly in a rented apartment. But what made Rohan stand out was not how he looked, but how he saw the world. To others, Rohan was just another quiet guy, always alone, always carrying a small backpack, and always walking instead of taking the bus. Many who knew him in passing didn't understand him. He never bragged, never showed off. He greeted everyone with a smile, helped others without expecting anything back, and most of all, he believed that kindness had the power to change the world. People laughed at that. In fact, they often did. One day, Rohan was walking home from work when he noticed an old beggar sitting on the corner near the bus stand. The man looked frail, his clothes torn and dusty, and his hands trembling as he held out an empty tin can. People passed him by, some looking away, others murmuring in disgust, and a few even laughed under their breath. No one offered anything. No one even stopped. Rohan paused for a moment. He looked down at the old man, then quietly reached into his backpack, pulled out a small lunchbox, and knelt beside him. He opened the box, revealing 2 parathas and a small container of pickles. Without saying a word, he offered the food to the old man, who looked up with watery eyes. The beggar took the food slowly, almost as if he couldn't believe someone would do this for him. Rohan smiled and sat beside him, asking softly, "Are you okay, uncle? Do you need water too?" The old man couldn't speak at first. He nodded, tears falling down his weathered cheeks. Rohan got up, walked across the street to a nearby juice stand, and bought a bottle of clean water and a glass of sugarcane juice. He returned and handed them over to the old man gently. This scene, however, was not going unnoticed. Across the street, standing in front of a fancy cafe, were 3 young men, Arjun, Karen, and Samir. They were college students, dressed in expensive clothes, sipping cold coffee, and laughing loudly. They watched Rohan from a distance and sneered. "Look at that loser," Arjun laughed. "Feeding a beggar like he's some kind of saint." "Seriously," Karen added. "Dude can't even afford decent shoes for himself and he's out here playing Mother Teresa." Samir smirked. "Probably thinks this will earn him some points with God or something." The 3 of them laughed loudly. A few people around them joined in. Rohan heard them, of course. He wasn't deaf. He looked up for a moment and saw them pointing at him, laughing, mocking. But he didn't react. He simply smiled, helped the old man drink his juice, and then stood up quietly. Before leaving, he pulled out a small piece of paper and wrote something down. He folded it and placed it into the old man's hand. The man looked at him in confusion, but Rohan just smiled and said, "If you ever need help, go here. They'll take care of you." And with that, he walked away, disappearing into the crowd. The old man looked at the note. It had an address written on it and a contact name. He couldn't read very well, but he held onto it tightly like it was treasure. Back across the street, Arjun, Karen, and Samir continued their mocking. "You think he's gonna save the world with a paratha?" Arjun chuckled. "What a joke." Samir added, "Bro, if I had a rupee every time someone pretended to be a hero, I'd be richer than my dad." They finished their drinks, threw the empty cups on the pavement, and left in their sleek motorbikes, still laughing. The next day, a big announcement came at their college. A new speaker was visiting for a motivational session. The event was mandatory, and all students had to attend. It was hosted in the college auditorium, filled with students chattering, expecting another boring lecture. But the moment the speaker walked on stage, a hush fell over the room. It was none other than the owner of a famous NGO, Mr. Sharan. A man known for building shelters, helping the poor, rescuing abandoned children, and giving second chances to those forgotten by society. Everyone clapped as he stood at the podium. He began by telling stories of those who were left behind. Of people sleeping under bridges, of hungry children looking through garbage for food, of elderly people forgotten by their families. And then he said something that silenced the room. Yesterday, someone gave us hope. A young man helped a beggar on the street. He didn't know we were watching. He didn't know the old man was one of our undercover volunteers. The crowd murmured in surprise. Yes, he continued. We sometimes send our volunteers out in disguise to see how the public reacts. And most people ignored him. Many laughed. But one young man stopped. He fed him, gave him water, and even sent him to our shelter with our address written on paper. That man is here in this college. People began whispering. Some turned their heads, wondering who it was. Mr. Sharon then looked straight ahead and said, "Rohan, please stand up." All heads turned. Rohan, sitting quietly in the middle row, stood up slowly, surprised and a little shy. The applause that erupted next was deafening. Teachers, students, even the principal stood up and clapped. But three faces in the audience turned pale. Arjun, Karen, and Samir sat frozen, their mouths half open, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Mr. Sharon smiled and said, "This is what kindness looks like. It doesn't wear a suit. It doesn't drive a sports bike. It doesn't need an audience. It just acts, silently and selflessly." He then invited Rohan on stage. With hesitation, Rohan walked up, still overwhelmed. Mr. Sharon put a hand on his shoulder and announced, "From today, Rohan will be working with our organization as a youth ambassador. His education will be sponsored. And we will help him help others, just like he helped us believe again." The crowd erupted in cheers once more. Arjun looked down in shame. Karen ran a hand through his hair, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Samir sat there, stunned, unable to process how the person they mocked just yesterday was now being honored in front of the entire college. But karma wasn't done yet. As the program ended, students rushed toward Rohan to congratulate him. Reporters from the local news channel interviewed him. Photos were clicked. Videos were shared. The story went viral on social media. Later that evening, Arjun's father, a strict businessman, saw the news on TV. His face turned red with anger. "That's the same boy you laughed at, isn't it?" he asked furiously. Arjun tried to deny it, but his father already knew. "You mock those who help others? What kind of man are you becoming?" The next day, Arjun's privileges were cut off. No more bike, no more allowance. Karen's father gave him a similar scolding. And Samir's mother cried, saying, "I didn't raise you to become this arrogant." Within days, the three boys found themselves isolated. Their classmates avoided them, disapproving of their actions. No one laughed with them anymore. Meanwhile, Rohan began working with the NGO. He visited shelters, distributed food, organized drives, and spoke to students in schools about empathy and compassion. He didn't change who he was. He didn't seek fame. He just continued to do good. Months passed. One day, as Rohan was walking toward a slum area with food packets, he noticed someone sitting on a bench, looking lost. It was Arjun. Rohan paused and said, "Are you okay?" Arjun looked up. He was thinner, quieter, and not wearing his usual designer clothes. He sighed and said, "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." Rohan sat beside him and smiled. "It's never too late to change, Arjun. We all make mistakes." Arjun looked surprised. "You're not angry?" Rohan shook his head. "No. Because if I held on to that anger, how would I have space for kindness?" Arjun stared at him, ashamed but also inspired. A few weeks later, Arjun, Karen, and Samir joined Rohan at one of the NGO drives. They started small, helping set up tents, serving food, and packing supplies. Slowly, they learned what it meant to help someone without expecting anything in return. Their laughter returned, but this time, it wasn't the sound of mockery. It was the sound of joy from doing something that mattered. And Rohan? He continued walking with that same backpack, that same humble smile, and that same belief that even one small act of kindness could change someone's world. Because the truth is, when they laughed at him, they didn't see the strength it takes to be kind. But karma did. And karma made sure the world saw it too. Thank you for watching this powerful story.